Hello and a very warm welcome to CEO Immersives. I'm Divina Lasson. Now in this very special episode, we bring you an in-depth conversation with V Kamath, the current chairman at NaBFID. Now as India celebrates 75 glorious years of independence, Saurabh Majumdar and Anand Adhikari are in conversation with this industry stalwart to get his views on what the next 25 years of growth will look like in India and what are some of the themes that we may expect to see that will propel India's status to an economic superpower worldwide. This and a lot more. Take a look.
Hello, Mr. Kamath, and thank you very much for speaking to Business Today. We wanted to discuss India at 100. The road ahead for the Indian economy in general, having crossed several milestones over the past 75 years as India turns 75, whether it is the telecom reforms, the banking reforms, the startup revolution, and many, many more reforms which we've seen over the last many years. We wanted to get your view, Mr. Kamath, on the next 25 years. What do you see as the roadmap for India, and how can it actually claim its rightful place as a global economic superpower?
That's a very interesting question for several reasons. One is I think we are coming to a point in time where we have started accelerating down the runway. I'm saying that because at various points of time we thought that we were there, but I think we did not get there. And the building blocks for getting there are very clear. The building blocks for getting there are 3 or 4. One is there has to be a mindset to drive infrastructure at a pace never before done. At the same time, get your equation in terms of water and agriculture right. Second. Third, you should have an industrial sector which is able to build on its own. By that I mean has got positive cash flows, will be self-sustaining, external funding comes at a margin so that growth can be accelerated. Unlike in the past when you always have to look for 2-to-1 leverage, who will provide the money, and you have a so there is a momentum there. Fourth, you need a financial system which can support all these things. And that too, again, happens in terms of clean balance sheets of the banks and clean balance sheets of corporate India. Now, if I were to step back on this, it's what I call the prerequisite. And then we will look at how actually growth accelerates. That, as I said, we are up the runway now, starting to propel ourselves. How do we? So in our case, balance sheets are clean, banks are deleveraged, the capital market has come of age. When you look at either the corporate equity market has come of age, the corporate debt market, I think, will come of age as we go along with the variety of instruments and so on that are coming into the market. So that part, the funding part is, and as I said, the balance sheets are clean. So we are in a wonderful place to start this, our acceleration on the runway. One more point added in, which wasn't there at all and at any point in time in history, and that is, I would say, the digital revolution that is amongst us, which makes things makes you look at things in a different perspective. And most of those, that is. Everything becomes more efficient, more competitive, and more productive. And you can look at just one indicator of that. What has UPI done to India over 2 years? And what will it do in not 25 years, but in the next 5 years? So the acceleration is tremendous in the digital area. And I would think all these together, the unfinished agenda on infrastructure, the unfinished agenda on water, the growth agenda on industry and manufacturing, I used the word growth here, but there was already a momentum, and the completely new opportunities from digital propel us down this runway.
Do you think that India is now in a sort of progressive chart, which will leapfrog rather than progress geometrically in terms of digital revolution?
Actually, Saurabh, we are lucky in all these areas. Sometimes it's particularly in the technology area, it is good to be a laggard because you do not go through the installed cost of very heavy stuff. And when you leapfrog, things have become dramatically cheaper and much more efficient. The classic Moore's law, which is still alive and kicking. So I would think that there is a tremendous scope for that to happen this time around also. And it will happen in an elegant manner.
Mr. Kamath, we have seen consolidation, in the banking sector, and we have today, large PSBs and also, large, private sector banks. Do we have the right, lending infrastructure in terms of institution today, to support the high growth in the next, 5, 10, 20 years?
Well, a good question. Now, the way I look at it is that even that lending structure is undergoing change. And if I were to look at it into three parts, my belief is that the large corporates will clearly access the capital market through a variety of instruments, either bonds, or not necessarily as bonds, through structures like InvITs, where they shed some assets, put them into a InvIT structure, and then almost on the lines of what the government is, I think, monetization and growth. So taking debt on the books may not be the fashion for large corporates. So the large corporates are at least. For the medium corporates, if you actually look at some of the digital companies that have come up, they are providing very interesting opportunities online and creating a marketplace for commercial lending. That is tying in the large banks, and on the other side, the mid-sized corporates can come to them, and all data is available at one point, funneled through the digital channel. The due diligence can be done, supervision can be done. So a completely different type of lending is taking place, but this is through the banks. The third part is the retail piece. The retail piece, I think the banks have, at least some of the banks have, are on top of it. And they will do this online, and a combination of online and physical retail. I'm talking of mortgages, cars, motorcycles, credit cards, and so on. They will be digitally driven, but probably remain in the banking space. So I think we will see a completely different architecture for lending as compared to what we saw in the past. There were only banks doing all these things. So we will see interesting things that will happen.
What are the 3 or 4 things you would like on the infrastructure front to be done for India to achieve the goal at India at 100?
I think at this point in time, we see predominant for a variety of reasons. And those reasons are not difficult to look. They are what happened in the last 7, 8, 10 years in terms of infrastructure projects, particularly driven by private sector under PPP or otherwise. And the government has had to take on most of the outlay here. So what I think we would need to have is that either the government accelerates that part of it to appropriate structures, brings in private sector as necessary, not compulsorily, demonetizes and raises money, and builds up an efficient implementation and operational system, as has happened in the highways side and is happening in some other areas. So there has to be, I would say, a greater partnership in a way between the government and the private sector after the initial challenges that the private sector is facing at this point in time are overcome. I see that happening probably 4 years down the line and then accelerate. That's the key.
Mr. Kamath, after the pandemic, we are also hearing about this China Plus One, strategy, of global cooperation. In the next 10, 15 years, do you see we have the right building blocks to take advantage of this China Plus One?
Anand, I think we will definitely have the advantage for a different reason than what people normally are talking. My view is that we will have the advantage because we will be the marketplace that these companies which are looking for plus one need to look at. And I think, I'm sure we are already taking steps in our own, from our own perspective. That will drive the China Plus One in any case. For example, for force, I think manufacturing has to move to India. If we play the card appropriately, now 100% sure we'll play the card appropriately. Take something not personal use, but take for example aircraft. Now I heard that with the Gift City, we are saying that all leases of aircraft will be done out of Gift City. What a bold step! What a wonderful step! It had to happen. So you are basically in-housing an activity which was sitting somewhere in an offshore. Now it's onshore. Similarly, every single area where if we're talking about aircraft manufacture itself, if we are going to be the largest, providers of the largest demand for aircraft for the next 20-25 years, which I'm sure we will, should we not be asking them to come and set up base here? So China plus one will happen for a variety of reasons, primarily because we are the largest consumer. And then at the margin, we may export. So I would like to look at ourselves as a domestic consumption marketplace with exports at the margin.
Mr. Kamath, you spoke about startups also. The digital revolution includes startups. They've been at the forefront. Now, of late, we've been hearing a lot about a funding freeze, governance lapses at startups, people being laid off and stuff. So do you think that the startup ecosystem, which we have so carefully nurtured over the years, is in some sort of a problem phase right now? And what needs to be done for it to achieve its aim?
I look at it differently. The startup phase that was there, I think the ecosystem is built up. And you have seen 60, 70,000 new leaders emerge who are running these startups. And they have different mindsets. I think there is only one challenge. When I looked at this closely, earlier on, you would have a startup come and you would say, is this product workable? Now, when I'm talking to a startup company, everybody has got a first-class product. It is workable, absolutely workable. So one big difference here is that they have the product, which is workable, and they've got a platform which is workable, works very well. The disconnect and the challenges that you're seeing is because there is a disconnect between what they have built, the value they have built, and the valuation expectations. And that valuation expectation, I think, part of was their own funding structures, which probably set certain valuation ideas. Once that gets corrected, I think things will be back to normal. So, so this reset of value to be in sync with valuation gets this right. So why are they laying off? They're basically laying off because they find that we cannot afford this and we cannot run on a negative cash flow. But I would still think that they got great products and they will succeed. If they didn't have, then I would have said no chance.
Mr. Kamath, you talked about digital contributing, 20 to 25% in the GDP, going forward, and digital in a way is playing a big role in both manufacturing as well as the services sector. Now, will the share of manufacturing go up? Let's say in the next 5, 10, 15 years, or will services continue to dominate?
No, I think the push is inexorable. It is services which will drive. And everywhere it is services which will drive. But what is it that it will have? Will it stabilize around 60%? I would think it will stabilize around 60%. Agriculture will be mechanized and will be a different sort of value-added agriculture, 10 to 15%. And somewhere in between will be manufacturing and
Mr. Kamath, you spoke about UPI. Now, UPI is, we've been discussing this, Anand and I, it's been one of the biggest game changers in the last couple of years. And, like you said, it can actually change the game even more in the next 5 years or so, that quickly, because we keep leapfrogging into new technologies. What would you think are the, how would you see the UPI phenomenon and the UPI revolution?
You see, UPI, I would look at it as only one part of a digital miracle that is happening. It is, that's a payment space miracle. But I'm sure that it is happening across in all areas where of banking services in a variety of ways. In access to data to take better decision making. We had so far only a CIBIL score, but I think now are quickly getting into other data points. And more of real-time data. So to me, UPI is a tip of an iceberg of an ecosystem, which is digitally driven, hugely value creative, and hugely cost effective, and that will drive us. And absolutely, without any doubt, we are at the forefront of a change using these technologies.
And Mr. Kamath, one last question. Can you list out maybe one or two, big challenges that will come in the way in our growth journey in the next, 15, 20, 25 years?
I think that we need to make sure that, we are quickly able to resolve obstacles that come in the way. In the past, and I won't go into those, we know a variety of obstacles that come in and, somebody sets up a roadblock and then we get stuck. We have to find a way around it. I think we need to make sure that, for example, we need to make sure that a road is built at record speed. And from acquisition to implementation, no roadblock is there. Similarly, if a green project is being put out, let's say a solar power project is put out, then it gets done at speed. So I think that we need to put in these sort of roadblocks in a similar manner to make this happen.
Mr. Kamath, thank you very much for speaking to Business Today. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kamath.